Hi, my name is Abdullah Ahmed. So, this is going to be my project 2 for English 201. So, the topic I've chosen for this project is going to be how have animal populations changed in New York over time. I chose this topic because I thought it would be something interesting and something fun to do. So, I am going to talk about the animals I've chosen to focus in on during this project. So, I chose to do animals that I thought were either symbolically important or just have a high population within the state. So, in chronological order, I will be focusing in on the beaver, geese, and squirrels. All right, hope you have fun with the project. The first animal I want to focus in on, and probably the most symbolic, is going to be the beaver. It is a little known fact that the beaver is actually the state animal of New York. This is due to its historical use by European traders who would specifically go to Northeast America and Canada so they could collect beaver pelts and use them for trade. The use of pelts, however, has significantly contributed to their decline in population. When the Europeans first came here, the beaver population was around 50 million. However, due to overhunting, that number dropped dramatically to the thousands. There have been movements, however, to help bring that number back up. Namely, in the early 1900s, beavers were artificially reintroduced into the Andes rocks. And by 1924, upstate beaver populations were back to their original numbers. In 2007, a beaver was spotted in the Bronx River, marking the first beaver sighting in New York City in 200 years. Beaver sightings are now common in Staten Island, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. However, it is important to mention that their numbers are nowhere near what they used to be down south. Upstate, they're back to around what they originally were. The second animal I want to focus in on is the squirrel. Squirrels have a surprisingly rich history in North America. Rather than dogs or cats, poor families used to own squirrels as cheap alternative pets. Founding father Benjamin Franklin actually owned his own squirrel as well, which died in Europe and he wrote a eulogy for. Squirrels were very abundant in New York, but this number started going down drastically during the 1800s. Not only did the ones in New York start dying due to a lack of food and water, but there were also waves of squirrel migration westward to find more resources there. It got to the point where sightings of squirrels were considered pretty newsworthy. During the late part of the 19th century, squirrels started being artificially released by organizations into Central Park. Other things, such as nuts, trees, were also planted so squirrels could have something to survive off of. Pretty soon, the population of squirrels had gone up too high, leading to the signs being put up telling people to stop feeding them. We can see that historically humans have constantly kept squirrel populations in check. The third animal I want to talk about in this project are geese. Mainly because, unlike the majority of large animal populations within America, the number of geese has actually gone up significantly. To be more specific, I will be focusing in on the Canada goose, which are the most common geese in the United States. Much like the previously mentioned squirrels, Canadian geese were numerous during the 18th and 19th century, but urbanizations led to a decline in population in state. This decline was not as drastic as the other animals mentioned, and the animals did not just die, but mostly migrated, unlike the previously mentioned squirrels and beavers. And much like squirrels, the Canadian goose population has bounced back from that original decline into far more than what originally was. In New York, many geese suddenly lack natural predators due to man-made waters, such as lakes and other bodies of water within parks, leading to geese being attracted to where people live rather than repelled by it. Now, it's a well-known fact that geese actually migrate during the winter. Their usual home up north becomes too cold during the cold months, so they move down to areas within the southern United States, sometimes even going as far as Mexico. But a lot of geese in New York have started staying year-long. This is attributed to the previously mentioned lack of natural predators and also the easy food that can be found in parks, so there's no real reason for them to want to migrate down south. So, the next part of this assignment was supposed to go very, very differently. So, looking for an interview turned out to be very, very hard. I called the Wildlife Conservation Society, I called the WWF, I called Nat Geo, I called the Department of Environmental Conservation, I called the Long Island Field Office for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. All of them were robots telling me to press 1 and then just sending me back to the website. Either that, or them telling me they're too busy for any kind of interview whatsoever. The closest thing I got, really, was from the squirrel census, which they couldn't connect me to a field office for an interview or anything like that, but they had a pre-recorded song for me, so here's that, I guess.
Not so fast. Let's get in the mood. Let's hear a squirrel song. Tiny little squirrel in this doggone world. Tiny little squirrel, I see you.